We live in a gray world. We're all on the government take, or for in one way or another. We want our Social Security. In some cases, we want our Medicare. How about this? This is wonderful. Banks are going to use federal funds to repay their bailout. I made the point a number of months ago when General Motors came out and said, we're paying back the money that we were loaned. That was crap. They were just using money from the Fed to pay back the loan. So check this out. This is from Associated Press. Some banks are going to use money from a government program aimed at increasing small business loans to repay their federal loans. This is according to the Treasury Department, who oversees the bailout program. So let me see if I get this right. So they're using your tax dollars to repay the debt of tax dollars that you loaned them in the first place. You following along on that? That seems fair. That seems fair right there, huh? Ensuring they make a profit. Tax killer Rich, good morning. You're on the big one.
Good morning. I am so glad you brought up this whole socialism issue. The socialism thing is at the core of what we're facing with everything. We have to face that the unions were formed under a socialist idea, whether we call it that or not. The reason why socialism is the biggest, most evil, vile thing ever imposed upon the human race as an economic system is for the very reason that I don't buy a lottery ticket. I won't get a lottery ticket because I don't want to not earn the money. Now, a lot of people will think that it's great. I would love to win the lottery so I can get millions of dollars, pay all my bills, not have to struggle or do anything ever again. And that's the fantasy.
So, whoa, Rich. So what you're saying is you don't play the lottery because you're afraid you're going to win?
I wouldn't want to get money that way. I'm serious. I would not want to know.
Rich, it's much better to make a statement like, look, my chances of winning are 1 in 400 trillion. All right? Then I'm afraid I'm going to win.
Right. Well, seriously, if you that's true. The odds are terrible, but you can't win if you don't play. That's how they market the thing. But if I
well, they don't market to you though, Rich. They market the fantasy to and it's in every state in the country. The fantasy is all about winning, and it's all about lightning striking you, and they're not targeting you. Well, they're not targeting your demographic, or in fact, in some cases, they're not targeting your race.
Yeah, they target the fantasy of being able to be relieved of the pressure of struggling.
Correct.
The struggle.
Right.
So, but we know people who run businesses that they earned the business. They worked hard, built the business up, but then they a kid or an heir of some kind inherits the business, and they let it all go to. They don't know how to run it because they didn't earn it in the first place. Mm-hmm. The value is in earning and doing and achieving and gaining. When you just give people something, they don't appreciate it. And that's what you see in the breakdown of the welfare system. And that's why we all have this perception that union workers don't work very hard because they don't. Because they're getting a good wage without fighting.
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, you can't make an encompassing statement about all union workers don't work hard because some do.
Some do. As a general statement,
most do.
Perception
I'd say most do, but there are those that will play the system.
Right.
There are those that will just get pulled along by the group, and that's why it's those people that are afraid of working under a system of merit. And it's a small percentage. It's not. It's not the overall group. You can't say that.
Well, okay. I'll say it as a general perception that
that's the perception, right?
All this debate over SB 5 and all that is sort of created, and I know quite a few people who work in union positions, and there's good and bad either way. But the perception is that when you're getting a disproportionate amount of money, when
mm-hmm.
you get paid a wage, I remember growing up when the Batavia had a Millicron plant out in Eastgate, and there was a Ford plant, Sharonville. There was a General Motors plant in Norwood, and those were all thumping economies. We were building cars like crazy, and they were just...
Well, socialism's doing well for Norwood because Norwood can't pay its bills now. I don't know if you saw that or not. Yeah. Yeah.
They're gone. They're all gone. But it comes from this idea that you can get something and just cruise and don't earn it.
To your point, some of the unions there won't take $1 million won't take $1 million in concessions, and they can't agree on a budget, so they can't write paychecks now in Norwood.
That's right.
Yeah.
They just can't see it. They sometimes have to say, "Whoa, we asked for too much," and we have to back up and figure out a new position.
Well, look, that's what sunk General Motors. That's what sunk a number of corporations. Look at United Airlines. How many times have they filed for bankruptcy?
Right.
You have Delta Airlines that filed for bankruptcy, and every time it's about legacy costs. They can no longer afford legacy costs, and I cannot figure out why public employee unions can't figure out that the local governments and the state governments can no longer afford these legacies, and it goes all the way up to the federal government. And I understand. Hey, look, you signed on, and a deal's a deal. But at the end of it all, if they don't have any money, you can't pay the bills.
Right. Exactly right.
All right, Rich. Have a wonderful weekend. I have to take this call. Here's one. How could you not take a call from Michael in Jackson, Ohio? Michael in Jackson, Ohio, how are you?
I'm doing okay. How about you, Darryl?
Doing well.
Okay, I got a question for you. Is military service, if you serve the military for 21 years and you get a pension, is that living off the government? Because, see, you say, like, for Social Security, you pay for Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
You pay so much out of your paycheck for that Social Security. You pay taxes for your land.
Sure.
If you don't pay your property tax, you don't get...
Well, Michael, do you have land? Since you brought up property, do you have land? Do you have a house? Okay. And do you take
I got land. I paid for it, too.
Sure. And you have a mortgage on that?
Nope. I paid everything. I own my house. I own my property.
But you're paying property taxes.
Yeah, you have to pay property tax.
All right. When you figure out your taxes, do you deduct your property taxes?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. It's 19 in front of 10 on the big one, 700 WLW. 700 WLW in sports. Today, it's the Reds in Milwaukee, game number 2 of the 2011 season. 7:10 for the first pitch with Marty Brenneman and Jeff Brantley tonight from Great American Ballpark. Our coverage starts right after the 6 o'clock news, about 6:06 with the inside pitch. Travis Wood on the mound for Reds opening night at the GABP. And tomorrow, the Reds in Milwaukee wrap up the series, 1:10 start. Our coverage starts after Sunday morning sports talk. Also tonight after, and tomorrow after the games, it's extra innings with Doc Rogers. Butler takes on Virginia Commonwealth. That game is a 6 o'clock tip-off in the NCAA semifinals, and it's UK taking on UConn, and that's an 8:49 tip-off. You can hear those games on Fox Sports 1360. You can hear the UK game on ESPN 1530 this evening. So we got you covered. It's 14 in front of 10 on the big one, 700 WLW. I had it a little bit wrong when it came to the city of Norwood and the government shutdown that's happening in Norwood now. It seems the firefighters and the police, they had offered up. It wasn't $1 million. It was about $900,000. But, all right, let's just round it up to $1 million. They have offered that up, and that was refused by the city council. So that's why there's the government shutdown now in Norwood, and city workers there cannot be issued paychecks. Let me put it to you this way. I got it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. To Mainville, here's Dave, 700 WLW.
Darryl, my hero, the man who has called to the attention that the what's the word I'm looking for? Hypocrisy of the school tax.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it up, buddy.
I'm trying. At 10:06 this morning, I reveal what school levy I'm going to focus on.
Shout it loud and shout it proud.
It's going to be laser-like.
Here's my confusion, and maybe I just want to hear your input on this. I think unions were great years ago, in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe even the 60s, but they're all out of control. Everybody knows that. I personally don't think we need the public unions. But here's and I understand why these guys are all screaming against issue 5 and the evil Republicans that are doing this. But here's the question I have. Why is it that the public officials, now they know that they don't have any money, instead of trying, they're really hurting themselves in the polls here, and they're hurting themselves with the electorate and everything else. Why can't they just go back to the table and say to the union people, look, we don't have the money. You're going to have to take a serious, serious pay cut in both your pension, salaries, whatever. That's it. We don't have it. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. I mean, I'm just why?
Because they're all bought and paid for, Dave.
Well, that's okay.
I mean, come on. I mean, if you think that anyone goes into I understand people going into government and running for office, and I understand the calling. And I really, truly believe there are people that go into it because they have a calling to serve the public.
I do, too.
But once they get into the system, they're corrupted.
Corrupted, you're right.
And look, I mean, you look at school districts like Lebanon that, cutting a backroom deal with the teachers union before SB 5 is signed into law. You see that happening in numerous school districts and numerous municipalities and counties across the state of Ohio. It's happening in Butler County. All of this stuff started leaking out about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I mentioned it just as a kibble or a sidebar on the show, and then it was about 2 weeks later, it was on the front page of the Inquirer. Well, because all these, these people, the school boards and the people that are charged with negotiating this, went to the unions and they said, "Hey, look it, Kasich's going to sign this, whether you like it or not. This is becoming law. All right, so you better come to the table right now, and we'll cut you a deal." So these deals are done. In fact, if you go to my blog, Dave.
So what? Wait, but help me out here. I wasn't familiar with this. Maybe I missed out on all this. What deals have they cut with the different?
They're going to these unions.
I mean, what did they say?
Go to it's a wonderful video. It's from the Lebanon School Board meeting of recent days, and it's on my blog. And it's all about them going to cut a backroom deal. They were going into a closed session about cutting a deal with the unions.
So,
and they didn't want to do it in public.
Why? I mean, what is? Are they?
Well, they don't want the heat from the public.
Are they caving into the unions?
Of course they are.
See, this is the kind of stuff that makes you just want to throw up. I mean, and number one, I think teachers and all these administrators are the most overpaid, spoiled, pampered people I've ever seen in my life. And I have a lot of friends that are teachers and that work in the school system. But when you work 200 and something days a year and you make $50,000 to $80,000,
oh, it's more than that, Dave.
I mean,
with benefits and all that, it's more than that.
Oh, I know. They're just totally overpaid. And if I hear one more time about that, it's for the children, I'm going to vomit.
Well, get ready to hear that, because now that this is law, you're going to hear about it's for the children a lot.
Oh, good God. Now, let me ask you this,
Phil.
Yeah. What is it that's Willie's beef against this whole thing? Or is he just being Willie and just stirring up the pot?
He's Union Brother Willie.
What?
Look for the union label.
I mean, nobody can stir the pot better than Willie.
I'm thinking Willie is looking at that T-shirt he's wearing, making sure it's made in America. Which is impossible, but I digress.
He's been screaming, he's the union guy now. He's against Prop 5 or Issue 5 or whatever it's called now. So I don't get to listen to him all the time, but I know nobody can stir the pot better than Willie.
Well, Dave, I'm going to give you a figure here. 30 years of service. This was done by the Buckeye Institute. You can find it on my blog. You can also find it online.
That's a great website,
all right?
By the way. I looked at that from what you said a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Everybody needs to look at the Buckeye Institute.
Here is the difference. In wages, a state employee over 30 years of service on average will make $1,899,000 a year. You can compare that with a private employee over 30 years of service, $1,232,000 a year, a difference of $667,000.
All paid for by the taxpayer.
Retirement, $266,000, a private employee, $49,000, a difference of $217,000. Social Security, they pay zip. The private employee pays $94,000. Health insurance, $685,000 in benefits. A private employee, $584,000, a difference of about $100,000. Sick pay, $82,000, and a private employee, $16,000, a difference of $66,000. So the total pay for a state employee after 30 years of service, $2,932,000. A private employee, $1,975,000, for a difference of $957,000. It's good business to work in Ohio at Broadman. Angie writes to D. Parks at 700WLW.com showing pictures of 2 new schools in the West Claremont district. One new school. This is the Withamsville, Tabasco. It has a freaking clock tower. It looks like it has a clock tower. Man, she says enough is enough. She's begging me to focus upon West Claremont. Details at 10:06. Which school levy am I going after? Nick, good morning.
Hello, Darryl. The problems that I have with capitalism and people like yourself is the inequalities that are created by capitalism.
Such as,
when 20% of the wealth or 80% of the wealth is controlled by 20% of the population. There's the problem. Where you want to take away the right of a worker to make a fair and decent wage. It's people like you, it's people like Kasich that want people just to have enough money to pay their mortgage at the end of the month so that they keep coming back. They have to keep coming back. They work until the day they die. Do you think that's fair, Darryl? Do you think that's fair? Teachers in this country, Darryl, are overworked and underpaid, and they've been underpaid for the past 200 years. It's the unions that are making things somewhat fair. Somewhat fair. That's what I'm saying. But it's people like you that want to go back to
Well, Nick, this is what I'm going to say, Nick. You sound passionate about this, Nick. And here's what I'm going to say. You couldn't cut it in the private sector. You were working at a restaurant. You couldn't cut it. Am I correct?
Darryl, I have.
So then you went, Nick. Then you went and you lived off some kind of what do you call that when somebody gives you money to write a book?
A
grant.
Had a grant.
All right. So that was tax dollars on that. So you're living off the government on that. And then you finally got a job. You finally felt that you needed to be productive and get up off your butt. So you got a job at TSA. Have they fired you yet?
I am working, Darryl. I'm working 40 hours a week. Working
government benefits. Government pay. I am paying your salary, Nick. Darryl, you are living upon the public teat.
How come, Darryl, you don't have a problem when a CEO makes $1 million, yet you have a problem when a teacher makes $100,000 a year?
They work 9 months a year. A CEO works 12.
A teacher works relentlessly. You know what?
Relentlessly?
Darryl? Yes, Darryl. There's papers to grade. They work.
What? Like I don't take work home? You see, Nick, because you live off the government teat and you work for the TSA, you don't take work home.
Darryl, all I'm saying is, think about it.
You work 40 hours. You know how many hours a week I work, Nick?
How many hours do you work, Darryl?
North of 70 hours a week.
Well, that's...
I wouldn't know what to do with myself if I had only 40 hours a week to be on the job.
Choice, Darryl. I don't want to my life, Darryl.
Nick.
Okay? And if I had my way, we would go to a 30-hour work week.
Well,
okay?
Nick, you're
work.
A Veal.
I'm just saying.
You're a Veal,
okay?
Nick.
It's a necessary evil. You want people to work, Darryl.
Nick the Veal.
You want people to work their butts off until the day they die.
You're a Veal.
You don't want people... Darryl, I find this rather upsetting. I'm going to Columbus next week, and we are protesting.
Now, Nick, I must admit, none of the union brothers and sisters really want to see you. A little bit late for news on the home of the Reds, 700 WLW.